Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
Good questions. Love these questions. People get in touch, ask us questions. You know,
I'll show you.
I dance to 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm a well-educated man. Hey everyone, and welcome to Drum and Drummer. This is a podcast for anyone who feels the pulse of a great drum beat deep in their bones. We're here to celebrate the art of drumming, to explore the stories behind the drummers we admire, and to share the passion that drives us all to pick up our sticks. We'll be covering a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals of rhythm to the most advanced techniques, but most importantly, we'll be sharing our love for the drums.
Great stuff.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's missed out stuff about
Banter.
weird kids' names. It's just missed out general banter and shit about Lurpak and all that sort of nonsense.
But if you put it in, make an intro for Drum and Drummer talking about the banter and Lurpak, you know.
Then we'll see what happens next time, yeah. That was the AI-generated intro for a drumming podcast, option 3, focused on the love of drumming. So there we go.
If they were able to, you know, get the words from every Drum and Drummer episode that we've spoken and then form a thing from that. Do you know what I mean? Because
I think,
be able to do that.
I'm sure someone out there with more tech-minded would be able to put all the episodes of Drum and Drummer into AI and then get it to write a 30-minute episode.
Do you know what?
And then what we could do is we could then read it out like a script and see what happens. Try and make that happen.
Yeah. Do you know what I have thought about before? If we ever became successful podcast, unlikely. When?
If.
Hire a team of people to go through each episode and make like a best of episode, you know? Leave it up to them. Be like, what do they think is the best, you know? But we've done so much, it'd be quite hard to condense 100-something episodes of genius, you know, into, Right, I'm going to start by talking about... I can't remember.
Great.
No, I knew we were going to be doing 2 episodes, so I go... Oh, no, I'll tell you what I was going to talk about. Jack Hickling. Right, I'm going to call him out.
Jackie Hickling.
So I got a message. So he gave me a gig for someone else once, and then like on the day or the week of, the guy cancelled the gig. It was before Christmas, and I was like, okay, you know. Anyway, he messages me yesterday. He says, hey man, I got a gig April the 12th or the 11th. Can you do it? And I said, is it confirmed? And will it be confirmed? And Jack replies, great question. Let me check. I don't know why that's funny, Jack, but it is. And then he said, if it's 100% confirmed, he's just messaged this. Are you free to do it? And he was like, okay, cool. I'll speak to Will. Because, you know, basically, I had a night with Gabby King planned, you know. We were going to watch Peep Show and get pissed, you know. And I don't want to say no to that and then also not have a gig, you know. Be awful. So anyway, let's start with that. Just calling Jack out, you know.
Yeah.
If you're going to give me a gig, Jack, make sure it's confirmed first because I'm a busy man, you know. Anyway, so obviously we're doing 2 episodes. So I messaged some people and said...
Well, can I just interject there slightly?
Please. On which bit? Which bit?
Well, on the sort of the gig side of things, because we had a little bit of a funny... funny moment. So, and I've got a gentle critique for you, George.
I felt like you would.
I think this will apply to a lot of people. So anyway, you're down to play bass for Decade for a gig in July, and you know it's March. There's plenty of time, and you message any chance. I'm going to pull the messages up. Just so I'm accurate with my...
Yeah.
All right, boy, have a favour to ask.
Mm.
Can you see if there's any bassists available for this Decade gig in July? I said, we'll take a look. Because, you know, but then I asked you, why?
Yeah.
Now, you replied, you'd been offered a gig with better pay, basically 2 gigs in one day, so you'd earn more money. Now, I totally understand why you'd want to do that, why you'd want to switch. Right?
Yeah.
But I think it's important to state the reason at the start as to why. Well, I think so. For me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, why does he want to get out of this gig that he said yes to? That's in the diary.
Right.
Why you want to get? Because I'm going on holiday. Cool. Well, or whatever. There could be a heck of a number of reasons, but I think it was almost like you were shy to tell us why you didn't want to do the gig.
Not really. I was just like, no. Most people, I just say, can I dep this one out? I can find someone. If not, and then I just leave it there. Most people don't ask for a reason. Because
I think if I ask someone if they can do a gig, then like if I just say, "Are you free this date?" Well, if I get asked that, why? What do you want to do? Are you going to give me a gig, or do you want me to pay money? Are you inviting me for a barbecue? What's going on? I want to know what this is before I say I'm free. Yeah. So I like to say, got a gig, it's this band, here's the postcode, give them the information at the start. Do you know what I mean? So I just thought, if you said, look mate, I don't suppose you could try and find a dep for this gig, I've been offered something else, it's a bit more money, I'd quite like to do it. I'll go, yeah, sure, I'll try. Yeah. I'll try. But for me, just going, without knowing why you want to get out of it, gives me a bit of a, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Does it?
That makes sense?
I'll bear that in mind for future.
I think so.
Times.
I don't think there's anything wrong with you wanting to jump on a gig for more money. No, I don't consider that wrong. That's everyone does it. But I think a bit more transparency in general from people, because if I was on a gig depping for one of Ox's bands, and I've had it before and then one of my bands come in, and I say, I don't suppose you could find someone else to do this. I've had a freshman year gig come in, blah blah blah. I give them the reason so they understand why I'm trying to get out of it. Not that I'm just trying to get out of it. Because some musicians, not you, but a lot of musicians will just try and get out of something to get out of it. Yeah. Bugger, I fucked up, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but anyway, you hounded me over the weekend.
Well, I wouldn't say I hounded you. I wasn't getting any updates, and I wanted to let Tim know.
But
I said once an evening, I said any update. That was it. Because, I'll tell you why, to give you and Neil a gentle criticism, to give you one back. You two are very precious about who you have as a dep, which I get, but you're sort of the only people that do that. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like, if I found a dep, I know that they'd be good, whereas I've sort of tried to do that before and be like, Jamie is great, and not to name drop someone, and you'd be like, we don't know him, so we're going to go with no, and you'll have to do this gig, which is fine. But I think that was my thing. I was like, what if, the kind of, I don't know, because I don't know how many bass players you've got on your roster, and if it's like just a handful and it's July the 5th and they're all busy, then it's like, I think part of me was like, I can find one if you want, but it's like, but knowing that, you sort of have your little list and be like, if they're all busy, you do the gig, which I get, because you want to be safe. You don't want some.
Well, I think we like to, over the years we do have to have people we don't know on gigs, and that's fine. But we'd like to go through our resources first to see if there's someone we know, we trust, who's done it before, who we get on with. And if that doesn't happen, if we can't use one of our people, we will then start to look outside that. Yeah. But we don't want to just be slung with someone random who we don't know when someone we do know could be available.
No, of course, yeah. But
I think it's it's not like it's just we want to use our guys first, and if no one's available, we'll expand the search. Yeah. Without that,
and then you did find someone.
Really. Then we got to yesterday. Well, the thing is, my messages to Neil hadn't gone blue ticks. Yeah. And I knew he had a very busy weekend with his family, with football, and, he's got 3 kids, like, life's mental on a weekend. Yeah. And he wasn't working, and that's the other thing. It's like, he's not working. No. We shouldn't expect him to do some work while he's having a weekend off. So I just assumed he's not asked who we thought he was going to ask. So, and then you were like, "Oh, it's okay. Well, I'll do the gig. No worries. I'll do a daytime one with this other thing. Then I'll do that."
Yeah.
And as soon as we said, "Okay, cool, you're sticking on Decade," I said to Neil, "Don't worry about this. George is going to stay on the gig." He texts me back that minute.
Yeah.
"Oh, I've just got someone."
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just the way.
And that's like, what do I want to do? And I think going with doing both the gigs with the same person is better, because the daytime gig ends at about 3:15 in South Croydon, and it's like I'd be all right to get to Chichester, but at the same time, if there's anything weird on that Decade gig, I don't want the stress. Whereas if I'm with the same person, it's like, well, we're both on the same gig anyway, you know,
Yeah.
and then we're going to go to the same gig afterwards. So, but in the future, I'll happily say, because that was another thing, because it seems quite blunt to say, like, when you said, what's the reason? I just say more money, because I was like, well, because that is what it is, you know, it's like, and why, you know, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said, is the famous quote, you know.
Well,
and
I think there's
said, I've got something on, you know.
Well, I think there's different scenarios, isn't there? And like, I think in this case, the gig is far enough away that there's ample time to find a dep. Whereas some people will, you know, we've had it in the past, the week of or just 2 weeks out, realise they fucked up their diary, realise they've, or, you know, or some people are like, "Oh, can I get out of this gig?" And it's like, well, you have basically essentially signed a contract to say you'll do this show.
Yeah.
And by pulling out, and what's the reason? "Oh, it's my cousin's birthday party." Sorry, it's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
That's not a good enough reason to get out of this engagement you're essentially contracted to do, that you've committed to. So I think being just open, especially with us, like, you know us, you know, or it can be like, I know I started to do this gig, but a really big originals gig opportunity has come up. Cool, we don't want to stop those situations from happening. So we will do what we can. And for us, we just like to try our trusted people first. Yeah. And if not, we'll still do what we can. And I think it's a lesson for so much of life. Communication.
It is.
Communication is key.
Yeah, anyway. But it's a nice pickle to be in, though. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you know.
Well, what should I do? Go and play bass in Chichester with some mates, or play Stevenage on drums with some mates, you know?
Big
Either way,
dilemma.
it's going to be a fun 5th of July. Right, should I move on to... So I messaged some people and said, got a drum podcast. What topics do you think I should talk about? So I'm going to start by saying I had a new friend, this girl called Emma, come to my studio on Sunday. And she's a drummer. And she... Basically, I met her at like a music therapy session. And, you know, we got chatting. And she said, "Oh, you know, I used to play drums. I'm trying to get back into it. My drumming is... The way I set up a kit is quite unorthodox. I wish you'd seen this because it's mental. And this opens up a topic in itself." She was like... She went to like a rehearsal room before coming to mine just to kind of practice a little bit, 'cause she hadn't played in a few years or whatever.
So she coming for you for lessons?
No, literally just to hang out. She was like, I really enjoy just playing drums with another drummer and just kind of, you know, doing that stuff. And I haven't done it in a while, and I want to get back into it. So she just kind of
there. She's getting lessons for free. Yeah.
Well, is she? Because I did not teach her a thing.
I'm joking.
No. But yeah, so she set up the kit, moved everything around, so it was almost like it became like a left-handed kit, but she played it open-handed. I can't explain it without... I don't know. I should have taken a picture because it was mental.
You should have done, yeah.
I should have done. But, you know, next time she comes, I'll do that. But anyway, so we were chatting about it, and I was like, is there any, like, advantages to this? Like, do you find you can be more creative? And she kind of showed me some stuff that she could play. And it was like the toms were somehow closer or in a different place. So she was like, oh, I can involve the toms a bit more. And I was like, oh, that is quite cool. And we were talking about like creativity, and she was saying, because I've got this here, it means I can play this easier, or I can do that better. Yeah, it was just interesting, because it was like I then tried to have a go on her kit, and everything's back to front. You know, you're playing the kick with the left foot, so obviously it's like left-handed, but it's also like right-handed. And I mentioned to her how it was almost like Ringo Starr, how it was like he was left-handed but played on a right-handed kit, but she had it in reverse somehow. I can't remember. And yeah, it was just weird. But it's quite an interesting thing when you kind of change things on a kit, or when you play on someone else's drum kit, you're like, oh, I'm playing this now, or it makes you play a different way, and you might create something that you wouldn't have created if you were just on your, you know, if you play on a kit with, I don't know, 3 high toms and 2 floor toms, it's like you're going to do some fills that you wouldn't usually do. I don't really know what my point of this is, but I should have taken a photo. Next time I will, because it was mental. It was mental. And she was self-taught, and so the way she was playing was quite unorthodox, and she was showing me some of the songs like her old band used to play, and I was like, that's a fucking mental drum beat. And it was, we got into this chat about how, I don't know, that thing where if you go into, let's say, higher education in drums, does it almost stilt or, you know, stop some creativity? You know, if, you know, BIM was, their whole ethos was like play simple things well, you know. And I do feel like a lot of drummers sort of might have perhaps once played something a bit more mad and then gone, oh, actually, no, I'm just going to do kick, snare, kick, snare, you know. And some of the stuff she was playing, I was like, that's mental. No drummer I know would make that up. But she was like, well, I don't know anything else, so, you know, this is what I got. But, yeah, it's not even really a topic. It was just me talking about that. But it's interesting. You have a different setup, well, and you've never been taught how to do it properly, you know.
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff on not like Reddit. See what I did there. People are like, oh, what do you think about my setup? Or here's my setup. Yeah. What do I play? And you get a lot of comments of like your toms are too angled, or, you know, why is that there? And I think there's a basic understanding of how a drum kit should be set up. And I think there's fundamentals of, you know, if your rack toms are too, they call it frog eyes, you know, if they're too far apart and angled too steeply, then there's a fundamental issue with your technique when you hit those toms, the angle you're hitting them at, and the damage that will sort of do to the skins and things like that. So I think there's like fundamentals of ergonomics of that best allow for good technique and good playing. But then within that, there is personal preference. And I'd say one of the biggest things I've seen recently, that where you go, oh, I've not really seen much of that before, is having a second floor tom on your left.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people have a second snare. It's having, so you basically got a floor tom either side. Now, because that's going to be predominantly on your left hand, you're going to have different shit going on. It's just going to open you up. And so, like you say, if you have more toms, well, then that gives you more scope for different sort of things with the different pitches of the toms and things like that, as opposed to just one up, one down. But having things like a stack over there, or remote hi-hats on your right-hand side as well, or just in that very nature, if you're able to go from your ride to your hi-hats quicker, because you're not having to cross over your whole body in the kit, that's just going to open you up. But I see so many people set up drum kits at the studio with a recording rehearsal, and I go, that's fucking mental.
Yeah.
Like, that looks awful to play.
Yeah.
You know, different heights. And I think, again, the fundamentals, how high you sit and where that drum is in position to you, and those ergonomics, is slightly different to, I'm going to have this over here because it brings in a different... You know, I've seen people have, like, 2 rack toms and then a third smaller one, like over by the ride cymbal, things like that. All these, and I think that's the thing. You can do whatever you want, but if there's fundamentals there that allow you to make the most of whatever setup you've got and play effectively and efficiently, but you can then embrace creativity with the setup, then great. But I do agree as well. Like, if you're, you know, one of my old bands, like the guitarist, not that musically trained, he had guitar lessons. He didn't really know what chords he was doing or all that stuff. Even Barry in Auction Thief, he didn't know any of music theory. But he'd come up with his stuff, and we'd be like, "Oh, that's in 7/4," and he'd be like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And like, but sometimes you'd be like, "Well, you've done that. This is the reason why it works. We can understand it through theory, but then and that works, and we can do it like this. Or you've got this bit, and I think that's a mistake, and it should actually be one note shorter or one note longer, because it's just kind of weird or inconsistent." So
Yeah.
I think that the way I found it with the trombone as well is like, when I went to music college, they just tore me apart with how I stood, how I held the trombone, all that sort of thing. My embouchure, my mouthpiece was slightly to the left. They wanted to put it back in the centre. All these sorts of things. And the reason he said was like, the way you're set up now is, and a lot of that was just naturally how I did it. That's naturally how I held it, naturally how I stood. And I wasn't corrected by my teachers growing up. I was just taught how to play the trombone and get better and all that. And the reason at uni, where they were like, we want to break it down and get you set up, is because how you're currently playing, you can get better and better and better, but you're going to reach a limit where the physicality is going to hold you back. Whereas if we adjust these things, you might have to go backwards a bit, but you're going to be able to progress further because those fundamentals are there. And so I think it's a careful balance of like, you don't want to stem creativity and those things, but there could be a limit that, in example, this girl reaches because she hasn't got a grasp of the fundamentals. Yeah. But there's definitely I think there's definitely a stigma about a drum kit should be set up this way. You know, but whatever works for you. Yeah. But if you're not able to hit the drums properly, or you know, you're having a lack of economy with your motion, then there's probably issues there that might hinder you. Yeah. But that's what I think.
And and you know, she said she has no desire to be, you know, a professional drummer. She just wants to have fun. So it's just like, she's like, I know it's mental, but who cares? This is only for me, you know.
I had a guy who recorded a band called Van Gogh, great band. Yeah. And their drummer had 2 kick drums, you know, nice setup. And you think he plays open-handed, so it's a right-handed setup, but he's open-handed. And it's because he's open-handed, he had his ride cymbal on the left, just to by his hi-hats. Yeah. And I'm miking this thing up going, this is, what the fuck? Like, how do I... Yeah. Just because it's different, it's just standard, it's on the other side. And and you're like, it doesn't fucking matter, I just got to mic this thing up and capture what he plays. Yeah. But, you know, he's a great drummer. But it's just so weird seeing this ride cymbal there, you know, on that side. Yeah, literally. But... phenomenal player, and it sounded great. So well, this is it. So it doesn't matter. I would say one last thing. I do think, I don't know, when I was 18 and we did that City Skies EP, I don't think I could have done the drums better than I did then now. I think in a weird way, I probably know, I wouldn't say like too much, but like, I think there's that bit where you know just enough that you can make up something that you think is quite cool. Whereas now maybe I don't know, rein it in a bit. You know, maybe I'd hear a guitar riff and be like, okay, do da. Whereas back then, when you were a kid, you can be like, right, I'm gonna do something that's completely mental. Or I think you're just doing it so much more on emotion. Yeah. So much more on raw emotion of what, you know, the emotion of being in a band, being with your friends, being young. Like, life is so different at that age. No responsibilities. And you've learnt the instrument, you're having lessons maybe, but you're not driven by these, you're just driven by just fucking play drums and have fun. Yeah. And with that comes a freedom that, but as you get older and you progress more and you get better, it's hard to say whether that's the expression of freedom being reduced or maturity kicking in and going, I'm going to do what's right for the song here. I'm going to, you know, I don't need to play as much stuff. I don't need to be as busy. And I think that's just in general, isn't it? Life just gradually sands you down a bit. Yeah. And you understand a bit more. And I think you go, well, what I did there was great and fun, but it's mental. I wouldn't do that now.
I heard a film director talking about this, and he said how there is a sweet spot when you're, you know, young, like late teens, early 20s, where you know just enough about whatever subject you're doing, but not enough that you've matured, so then it becomes boring and you don't take risks, and it's why it's every band that released their best work before they were 25. People go, how did they write it when they were so young? And it's like, well, that's when you do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, people shocked by, I don't know, the Beatles, like, oh my god, they did all those things in their 20s. And it's like, yeah, well, they're in their 50s, they're not going to write tunes like that, because it's that sort of, I don't know, that sweet spot where you're creative and there's no limits, and you can take risks before you start, I don't know, doing the same things again. And I'm not sure, but it's a fascinating topic.
Good topic.
Another one, I'm going to go through topic from Erin, because I asked her as well. How would you, Ben, count in a 3/4 song? How many bars would you give it?
Good question.
It is a good question, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to shift it slightly.
Okay.
To from less of a 3/4, but to a 12/8.
Okay.
So semantically, these can be very similar, but the tune that comes up a lot as a professional is "Can't Help Falling in Love."
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a very common first dance.
Yeah.
And you could count that. A lot of time signatures can be, semantics. Some people can read things as 3/4, some can read it as 6/8, some can read it as 12/8. For me, I'd probably read "Can't Help Falling in Love" as a 12/8, but you've still got that 3 feel. Bum 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 1 2 dun, dun, dun. So you can count that as a fast 3/4, but the nature of the beat 1 2 3 and 4 and the music kind of feels that way. But it's very, if you're just hitting the main pulses of each 3. It's very slow. It's a very slow count in. And when you're sat there ready to do the first dance and you go...
Yeah.
It's a long count in.
Yeah.
Even though it's just 1 bar of 12/8. But the slower you give a pulse, the harder it is to find the tempo.
So is that how you're doing it? You'd go that, because I think I go that. I do that on the sticks.
So that's what I'm going to say. That's why my point is, I do the 3.
Yeah.
But then it's also, I think, important to still have the accent.
Yes. Yeah.
So the band has the pulse.
Yeah.
And you are dictating that, because what can sometimes happen is it's quite easy sometimes to misplace where the 1 is or something.
Yeah.
And if you just hit those all even, and for someone else's brain, they just start going in a duplet rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Right? But you're only going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think in that situation, it's our responsibility to give the pulse of the 3 with an accent to clearly determine it. If it's more of a bang-on 3/4, I think at least two rounds of the 3/4.
Yeah.
Again, to give that, confirm the pace of the beat, but also to confirm that we're in like 3 time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, this is what I think, it's because we're used to doing 4/4. So if you count in Rolling on the River, is that what it's called? Rolling on the...
Proud Mary.
Proud Mary. It's not called that. It's not called Rolling on the River. But if you count that in really quick, when it all comes back in, it could be fucking chaos. You know what I mean? People are going, woo! And like the guitarist is tuning and it's all mental. But you go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Everyone knows where to come in. Whereas if you did that on a 3/4 song, I went 1, 2, 3. It'd be like, what? And I think it's because it's far less common to be playing a 3/4 song. So when I did the soul gig, that was my example of it. I counted the guitarist in and almost just said, I'm going to keep clicking. You come in when you want, boy. So I was going da 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 da, bow 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 bow. And then he came in.
Well, that's another thing. Does the lick or lead in have come in before the 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
That can be quite common. So even though this is deviates slightly from the 3/4 aspect, but like a 4/4, all about that bass, right? 1, 2, na 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 na, all about that. So the vocals come in just after on the and of beat 2. 1, 2, right? If the singer just comes in after 1, 2, and that's not a lot of time for them to get the pulse.
Yeah.
So for that, you're kind of giving a 2-bar count in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, all about that bass.
Yeah.
And that's something that has to be discovered. I've done it before. I've done the first 4, and then the bassist comes in. It's like, no, there's actually 2 bars because the vocals come in.
Yeah.
You know. So there's all those sorts of things. And does it have a pickup? How fast the song is? Are you going to pulse out the subdivisions to give a better feeling of tempo to the band? Good question. I like it. What's next?
This is Erin's question. Tacet and stop time. What's the difference?
What?
Oh, yeah, there we go. See, I didn't know that. See, she said, basically she's a dancer, and she says tacet and stop time. What's the difference? I have my own interpretation of what tacet and stop the difference is. And I was like, I don't know what stop time is. I know what tacet is. But stop time, I don't know. But this is what's interesting about her, whilst you Google this, or AI it, is there's a lot of similarities between tap dance and drumming, which I found when teaching her, you know. The funny one is, drummers count in 1, 2, 3, 4, dancers count in 5, 6, 7, 8. So for a laugh, I'll count in.
Well, we all know the Steps song, don't we?
5, 6, 7, 8, yeah.
Right, I went to school, right? Some people might find that hard to believe. And in year 7, we do PE. We had to do dance.
Yeah.
Did you do dance? They get all the year 7s in the sports hall with this fucking boombox, and we just have to dance.
Yeah.
And I clearly remember we all had to do that 5, 6, 7, 8 song.
Yeah. I don't remember having a dance.
Gonna baby, but driving me crazy about it. 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, I just dance. And I just think, why?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's the worst thing in the fucking world.
I do remember,
Anyway.
no, my school is the opposite. We had quite a sexist teacher. Well, the girls thought he was sexist because he'd be like, right, lads, we've got the whole hall here for football. You can also have the other hall down the bit for tennis. Girls, I think there's a dance studio across the way, so if you want to go and do some dancing or something. So, no, I never did dancing. I was always playing football. But, yeah.
I'm just looking up stop time. What was it? What's the difference between tacet and stop time?
Yeah. I said, well, I only know what tacet is, you know, and even that's only from your charts.
My guess would be, I mean, I'm looking it up here on the old Wikipedia, and it says here in tap dancing, jazz and blues, stop time is an accompaniment pattern interrupting or stopping the normal time and featuring regular accented attacks on the first beat of each or every other measure, alternating with silence or instrumental solos. Stop time occasionally appears in ragtime music. Heavy accents, frequent rests, and stereotyped cadential pattern. Stop time may create so my understanding, and I might be way off here, but like, I mean, for me, tacet is in music it's a term to use. Don't play.
Yeah.
Just don't play. And maybe in classical music there might be a whole 20 minutes of a second movement of a sonata, of a concerto or a symphony, where the trombones just don't play at all, and it'll be movement 2, tacet. We're not playing. We're not involved. What I can gather, stop time there is maybe like on a very simple level. Johnny B. Good would have stop time in the solo.
Yeah.
So we're hitting the ones, we're hitting these little beats, and the guitarist is soloing over it. So the way I'd write that out in a chart would just be like an X on beat 1, and then I'd write the rests. Write the rests in. And I'll just write where those hits are. So, I mean, from my understanding, stop time, you're still going to play, but you're just... So I'd just write out the hits and fill the rest with musical rests, notation-wise. Whereas tacet, verse 2, if there's no drums, I'll just put
Yeah.
8 bars tacet. Don't play. Now that might mean I do a crash hit on the 1, but I don't need to write that. Write that out and then
No.
7 bars tacet. I'll just write 8 bars tacet and kind of know to do a hit on the 1. So I might be misinterpreting that, but that would probably be my assessment of it anyway.
Yeah.
But good questions. Love these questions. People get in touch, ask us questions.
I'll show you.
I dance to 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm a well-educated man. Yeah, I got lots of answers.
This is it. Well, I'll tell you the other questions they asked. Emma asked 2 more questions. What must it like to be Paul McCartney's session drummer? Just because, like, being the drummer for a Beatle, and then a question mark, an exclamation mark, a question mark, an exclamation mark, and then personality of a drummer, myth or truth? And I went, what do you mean by that? She said, well, there's a stereotype that all drummers are a bit mad. Is there any truth in that? Or are the Muppets to blame? So those were the rest of her questions. I think drummers generally are a bit ADHD. And yeah, the other thing Erin asked was about how would you explain swing or swung time to people that haven't done it before. And this is something I was saying when I was at BIM. I never knew how to swing before getting to BIM. And so I had like a tutorial.
Put your car keys in the pot, see what happens.
And I had a tutorial with
Pat's
all the
car. Interesting.
Yeah, I had a tutorial with all the drummers, and Pat taught me a very sort of like, well, you got 6/8 beat, and you take out, the 2nd and 5th, let's say hi-hat note, and then you got that, and that's what swing is. But then other drummers would be a bit more like feel, like, well, listen to how I'm playing, you do that, But it's an interesting one. How would you explain swing to someone? I'm going to try not to be conscious to talk too long about all this, but yeah. But
I think the what you said there about like imagine sort of triplet and you take the middle one out is a pretty good starting point.
Yeah.
But you can also get swing that's a dotted quaver and a semi-quaver. Ding, da ding, da ding, da ding, da ding, da ding. It can be different. The good thing I was always taught was to say the words 10 to 2, 10 to 2, 10 to 2, 10 to 2.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And there's a big threshold between beat 1 and beat 2. You've got the hit on the 1, and then you've got the little swing, the accent in the middle, and it might be a semi-quaver, might be a triplet, and it's usually somewhere in between before you hit the beat, the next regular beat. And you find that, especially I've noticed this when recording drums, so you really get to broccoli, you really get to analyse the see your drumming or someone else's drumming on the grid. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just swing, but if you get a kind of like a 3-3-2 thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, ba ba ba, ba ba ba, that kind of thing, is you can grid that out and put it exactly. So like it's 3 semiquavers, then it comes on the 4th semiquaver and lasts for 3 semiquavers, and then you've got 2 at the end or whatever. Match it to the grid, doesn't sound right.
No,
doesn't sound right. It's this weird. It's usually with that swing feel or those kind of hits, they are not quite on a perfect grid. And if you change them, it doesn't work. It loses that feel. So they're very like, it's a kind of an ambiguous space that you kind of feel that comes more from feel.
Yeah.
But I think, swing is that 10 to 2 rhythm, 10 to 2 rhythm.
And I was saying, it's interesting when you get a beat that's in between. So this is something I've tried to do before, where you've got like, it's not quite straight and it's not quite swung. Like some of the Beatles records are a bit like that. You're like, I don't know what this is. And if it's straight,
I think we chatted about Johnny B. Good before as well, actually. Just the sort of main, what the hi-hat's doing. Yeah. You can sort of do it swung, you can sort of do it straight. Is it a sort of hybrid? Yeah. That kind of thing. Sometimes you'll hear things, it's because he's just his right-hand technique shit.
This is it. This is it. Yeah.
I have a drummer I work with at the studio, and it's like his hi-hat is irregular, and it creates this kind of hybrid thing. And if I change it, it doesn't work. Just leave it as it is.
I think it's because all those drummers from the 60s were listening to the jazz drummers from the 50s and before, and they all were swinging, and then their bandmates were like, you got to make that straight. And they're like, well, I'll do it as straight as I can, but I'm swinging, boy.
I am all swing boy.
Yeah, this is it. That's what I liked about hearing about Keith Richards talking to Charlie Watts in the Stones and saying like, that you got to give me more of a backbeat. I know you're a jazz drummer, but but that snare hit is pathetic, Charlie, you know. And so he said, you know, that was the thing he had to learn how to do, was make the snare louder, you know. But then it still sounded jazzy because he was so used to swinging, you know.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Lovely set of questions. Very happy with them. Thank you very much for those questions. Keep them coming in.
Yeah, wow.
And that goes to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've done a good... I thought, how the fuck are we going to fill 2 episodes
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
Genuinely thought that.
Yeah.
You
If
know,
anything, we didn't really give Emma's questions enough justice. So
no, maybe we'll
apologies,
revisit
Emma.
them.
Yeah.
Revisit them.
Our drummer's mad. We'll start with that next week, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
We will have guests
Yeah.
at some point, but every time I talk to anyone about the podcast, they go, I like it when it's just you guys. So maybe we'll never have guests again. No, we will, but you know.
Yeah, we are good. I will just finish with something drum related.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few gigs coming up, and I'm just gonna 1, 2. Yeah, I just had to learn 3 songs.
God, how did you
Not
do
necessarily
it?
first. Well, charts.
Yeah.
I see a lot of stuff about people now giving info on how to write charts. It seems to be a big thing, and I'm not saying I started it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I started it. Drumming, I've now got a course on how to write charts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I reckon they're
I saw
secretly watching us.
someone
yeah.
else who's been on this podcast giving instruction videos on how to write charts. Just saying, you know, was I the first person to do it? Probably.
Do you
Was I
know
the
what
first
we're
person
like?
to watch Squid Game? I definitely was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
do you know what
I'm
we're
not-
like? We're like the Velvet Underground. Like, I heard that they never really sold that many records, but everyone that bought a record was inspired to start on do their own thing. Do you know what I mean? And they became cult-like and, you know, loved forever. But they never made any money, you know, never sold that many records, you know.
Yeah.
We're like that.
We will be loved forever. You know. That is a fact. But no, I had to learn 3 songs, and sometimes I look at a gig comes in and I look at their top 10 preferences and things like that, and I'll, you know, depending on who the lineup and the gig situation, how many other gigs we've got, how many, if you know, if some of them might be songs we've never played before, shall we learn them? Should maybe we just do one of them? And this gig, I was like, no, there's 3 new ones here that for one year that we should learn.
Yeah.
They'll come up again and again. We should learn, and we should do them at this gig. It's original lineup. It makes sense. And again, I sort of felt vindicated in my decision to...
Oh my God. I just remembered I left my car on the street. I've probably definitely got a ticket now.
Oh, dear.
It's too late. Carry on.
I was justified in where I wanted to take this band, right? In terms of what sort of songs we play. So the 3 songs that I've charted out that we're going to play: I'm Out of Love, Anastasia.
Yep.
Absolute tune.
Yep.
Gay Bar, Electric Six.
Yep.
And 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton,
Love it.
which has a cracking drums on it.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of them songs, it comes up all the time in discussions of pop songs that have ridiculously good drums.
Yeah.
So if you don't know that, go and listen to 1,000 Miles and actually listen to what the drummer's doing. It's mental. It's really good. So that's the trickiest of them. Like actually charting out. It's like there's some fucking cool stuff in there. Yeah. So we should probably leave it there, and you can go and see if you've got a ticket.
Yeah. Well, if I have now, I've already got one. Because 1,000 Miles is it's I think the drummer. Speaking of one of Emma's questions, it is the drummer from Paul McCartney. Abe something Jr. I think he was the drummer on that, and it's such a good groove. My God.
It's like little splash hits just in the main beat.
So good. I watched a video of him playing with Paul McCartney at Glastonbury, and they brought I think Dave Grohl and Bruce Springsteen on stage. He's playing Glory Days, and watch it. It's amazing. He's playing kick, snare, you know, just hi-hat beats, and that's it. And you're like, this is the best beat I've ever heard in my life. Why is it so good? Anyway, let's wrap up because I'm going to see if my car's got a ticket. It's been 2 hours 20. Probably, definitely got a ticket. Fuck. I knew I had to do something this morning. Oh well. Right. Let's wrap it up.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for questions. Keep them coming in. Have a good week.
Have a good week.
See you very soon.
See you very soon.
Bye-bye. Bye, George.
Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you, bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.